Hey guys, my name is Terry. I am co-founder and co-owner of Rhode Island Original, and I am also a U.S. Army National Guard veteran. And I'm also a recipient of the Purple Heart, and this is my story on how I received my Purple Heart. Basically, in 2009, I deployed with the Connecticut Army National Guard to Afghanistan. I was with the infantry, and as an infantryman, our job was to find and engage the Taliban. About 6 months into our deployment, we had already received a lot heavy contact. We, as a company, we survived ambushes, mortar attacks, small arms fire, IEDs, and suicide bombers. So by 6 months, we were just pretty busy. Around that time, it was my turn to take leave for R&R. Basically, soldiers are allowed 2 weeks leave from their deployment. Just 2 weeks to get away from the war, go back home, visit their family, friends, and loved ones, and all that. And I decided I wanted to go to Peru. I wanted to go visit Machu Picchu, and I came across a nonprofit called Global Tears, where people were able to volunteer at an orphanage and teach underprivileged kids English and essentially be a big brother. And I thought that was a great idea. That's where I wanted to go, and that's where I booked my tickets for leave. So it was the day following my 24th birthday. I just turned 24. My birthday is July 2nd, and it was also my last mission before leave. And I'm generally a really optimistic person. I like to focus on the positive things, except on this day, it felt like Murphy's Law. I felt like everything was too good to be true. And I just had this really bad feeling that something bad was gonna happen. I just couldn't shake it. I just had all this anxiety building up inside of me. And I literally said out loud, "Yep, I'm gonna die." So we went on a mission to do a KLE, which is key leader engagement. Essentially, our leader talks to their leader, and as we went to a village to conduct the KLE, we heard some small arms fire. Basically, it was our Afghan counterparts shooting at what they believe would be the Taliban setting up for an attack. And it was a really short engagement, and after that, I was like, yeah. That was it, all that anxiety I had built up was for nothing. And so I was really pumped that day. I was really excited that it was a short mission. I was excited that all that anxiety was over nothing. I mean, after, have some heavy contact, the smallest fire really was nothing to us. So as we were patrolling back to the base, in the truest sense of the unexpected, as if you were driving on the highway and all the windows in your car are shattered. We were caught in an unexpected ambush. My squad was in the kill zone, and I know that because one of my teammates had told us months after the ambush that he saw an arm swing out over a cliff holding an AK and essentially spraying and praying. And after that person started shooting at us, we started receiving machine gun fire from all around us in the valley. And so everybody started running for cover. I jumped off the road. We were on a road patrolling back to the base alongside of a mountain. I landed in a ditch, and as I looked around, I tried to identify where the shooting was coming from. I couldn't see the shooter, so I told my buddy to cover me while I bounded up the mountain in order to get a recon by fire. I was a light machine gunner, and my job is to suppress heavy fire. That way, my guys can maneuver and try to gain some superiority over the enemy. I remember I wasn't trying to be Rambo. I wasn't trying to be a hero. I was just trying to do my job, and I was trying to maneuver towards the fire and try to pinpoint where the enemy was so I could lay down some rounds. I remember as soon as I got up to the mountain, I realized I I was way further from my guys than I should have been. The moment I realized how far I was, I knew I needed to turn back. They started shooting at me, and I ducked for cover immediately at the nearest rock I could find. It was a really small rock. It was just big enough for me to cover my body as long as I tucked my head between my knees. So I stayed there, and as I listened to the gunfire, I couldn't hear the rounds above me. Normally, when you're getting shot at and they're getting really accurate, you can hear the rounds whizzing past your head. And if you're around concrete or a bunch of rocks, the bullets will land on the rocks near you, and it'll sound like crackling of like open electric wires. But I couldn't hear the rounds whizzing, and I knew that they weren't really shooting close to me. They couldn't find me. So I popped up and I got on my right knee and I started shooting at them. They stopped shooting, and then they quickly responded with their own burst of rounds. I tucked my head back down and I shot another burst myself. So it felt like the Wild West. It felt like, just two people shooting at each other back and forth. And suddenly I was hit with the most excruciating pain in my entire life. It felt like someone took one of those fireplace pokers and just skewered my leg from my left cheek all the way into my thigh. And immediately after skewering me with that poker, it felt like someone reached into my thigh and was shredding my muscles with their bare hand. The pain was so intense. I didn't scream, I didn't shout, I tried my best to deal with the pain. It just took over my mind. We've all stubbed our toe, and when you stub your toe, and that pain shoots up your foot. You just freeze in place. You kind of like hold in your breath, and you just wait for the pain to subside. That's how I felt with my body. My entire body was flexing and flinching, just trying to survive the pain. I remember just laying on the ground, my lower back arched, clawing and gripping the earth. And eventually my body just gave out. It collapsed. It gave out on its own, kind of like when you do push-ups until failure. And eventually my mind came to, and my eyes started focusing on whatever I was looking at, and I could see the trail that had led me up the mountain. And I realized that I was shot, and I knew I needed to get back down that mountain and get closer to my guys, but there was just no way I was gonna be able to low crawl down this mountain. So I shouted for my teammate who last saw me. I shouted his name, and my voice was drowned out by all the shooting going on. So I waited for maybe about 30 seconds. I tried to wait for a lull, but still, we're in this valley and there's machine guns going off from every direction. My guy shooting, the enemy shooting. But I tried shouting for my teammate again, and no response. He can't hear me. So I lay there, and at this point, I'm wondering how far the enemy is who shot me. I'm wondering if he's gonna run up and finish me off. I play these scenarios in my mind of someone just coming up and ripping into my skin with 7.62 rounds, and I just wait there, not knowing what to do. So I was raised in the church, and I began to pray. My parents are Christians before I was even born. So I laid there praying to God, and I wasn't trying to trick myself into believe something like an angel to come out of the sky or some sort of mystery soldier to come out of nowhere and just carry me away to safety. But I was just casting out my faith and hope in God that He was gonna do something to send me a sign that I was gonna be okay. But nothing changed. The shooting continued. There was that sound of helicopters in the air. I didn't hear anybody shout for my name. And I slowly started realizing that I was gonna die. So I made myself as comfortable as possible laying there on the ground. I just kept staring at the sky, and I waited for either a miracle or for death. And as I lay there waiting, I kept looking at the sky. It was so blue. It was so beautiful, and it looked like it was picture perfect, as if it could be one of those photos on a desktop computer. It just seemed way too happy. It just seemed so happy while I was laying there dying, and I got really pissed off. I just went absolutely postal. I think I was pissed at God. I know I was pissed at myself for accepting the fact that I thought I was gonna die. And I literally screamed out loud, "Fuck dying in Afghanistan. I am not fucking dying here." So without even thinking of it, I grabbed a machine gun, I put it on safe, I dug the barrel into the earth, and I pushed myself over the cliff. And I landed in a matter of seconds. I landed on a switchback beneath me, maybe 5 or 6 feet. And without even thinking, I did it again. I grabbed my machine gun and I shoved myself over the side of a mountain. This time, I'm airborne, and the fall is like 80 feet, and I just do this belly flop, and I land on the ground, splat into this puddle of water, and immediately I clutched my right hand to make sure I'm still holding on to my machine gun, and I could feel my rucksack with all my ammo resting perfectly in my lower back, and there's no encouragement to move, but the water, it's cooling my burning thigh, and I just wanted to lay there. I just wanted to fall asleep. But the moment I thought of sleeping, the idea terrified me, because I knew if I fell asleep, I might not ever wake up again. So I lifted my left hand and I started waving in the air like an SOS flag. But I was so tired, and I kept my face in the mud. I kept my face in the dirt, and I just kept waving my arm, hoping for someone to see me. Maybe 5-10 minutes went by, and finally someone spotted me. And a group of my guys ran up to me, and they started working on freeing me from my equipment. Someone grabbed my machine gun, somebody grabbed my ruck. And by then, I'm feeling drunk. You know, I know my guys are there and they're helping me out, but I just remember just feeling like hands working on my body. And then my body's tumbling, and somehow I'm rolling down this little small hill, and I land in a stream of water. And it's funny, but somehow I remember, and I realized that no one's doing anything. You know, one moment everyone's working on, trying to save me, and then next moment everyone's just staring at me as my body just laying there lifeless in the water. I think everyone was kind of a bit in shock, because I've always been such a PT stud. I've always been the fastest, if not one of the fastest guys in the company. I've always maxed out my push-ups and sit-ups. So I guess to see me laying there lifeless was a real shocker. But somebody snapped out of it, and before I know it, someone was grabbing me by my gear, my collar, and just dragging me across the earth towards the gun truck. That person was my squad leader, and whatever pain I was feeling in my leg, all that pain started focusing on my chest and my neck, as gravel and rocks and dirt was scraping my chest and my face. As painful as that was, I was actually really happy, because I remember thinking, like, I am now literally in the hands of my teammates and my guys. I know they're not gonna let me die. So my squad leader managed to drag me to the gun truck, and now there's still combatants in the area, and he needs me on my feet, and he can't lift me on his own. So somehow I find the strength to stand up on both feet, even though I'm shot in my leg, even though I didn't know I wasn't certain I was shot, but I was shot in my leg, and I don't know how I didn't black out, but I stood up on my leg and I crawled into the gun truck.
He's unconscious. He's still responding verbally.
They rush me on base and they get me inside our medical tent, and in there, things really started. My memory started going in and out. I remember my body felt really cold. I wasn't shivering, but I was cold, and my mind started going in and out like a really bad radio signal. They couldn't find an exit wounds, but my leg was swollen, so they knew there was damage going on in there, and they found a small entry wound in my left cheek, so they assumed it was just shrapnel. And then within 5 to 10 minutes, we had a bird arrive on the cop, and I remember them getting me on a stretcher. They had one of those insulator things wrapped around me, trying to keep me warm. And as they were carrying me to the bird, everybody was telling me, "Terry, you gotta stay awake, you gotta stay awake." And I could understand why I needed to stay awake, but I was just so tired and I was so cold. And the moment that the sunlight hit my skin, it really felt euphoric. It felt like a drug. It felt so nice to be warm. You know that feeling when you're watching a movie and it's really late at night and you really want to watch the film, but you're really sleepy, you're feeling drowsy, and you drift off to sleep? Well, that's how it felt for me. I knew I could have held on, but the sun felt so nice and I was just so fucking tired. I remember just deciding to release my grip in reality. And I didn't wake up until later in a forward hospital in country. I remember seeing the battalion commander there, and I remember trying to give him a situation report, and then looking over and seeing 3 nurses in full scrubs. They had the saddest look in their eyes for me. I remember staring at their faces, looking for an explanation, and they couldn't look at me. They looked away, and I put my head down. And when I woke up, I was in Germany. I didn't wake up until 2 days later. I remember waking up, and it wasn't like one of those groggy Sunday mornings when you're rubbing your eyes and you're kind of stretching. It was instantaneous. My eyes snapped open. I wasn't freaked out. I knew I was in the hospital. I knew I was injured. But what did freak me out was I realized I had a tube jammed down my throat, and I grabbed it reactively, and I started pulling on it. I started tugging, and dark purple bitter goo started oozing out of my mouth. And when I started gurgling, there was a nurse in the room who rushed over, who heard my gurgles, and she calmed me down. She let me know it was a feeding tube, which made sense, and calmed me down. The doctors came in and informed me multiple times that I was a very lucky young man. He said that had I arrived any more than 2 minutes, I would have bled out to death. In fact, I needed blood so quickly that they gave me untreated blood and had to test my blood for an entire year to make sure there was any STDs or HIV or anything like that, which there isn't. I don't have. And he also told me that the round had hit me at one of the only angles where I was able to keep my hip. Any other angle, he said it would have been game over. I was transported to Walter Reed Army Medical Center. I spent 10 months there rehabilitating and undergoing 12 surgeries. Currently, I can't run and I'll never run again. Essentially what happened was the round had entered my left cheek and into my thigh and hit my bone. When it hit my bone, it exploded and essentially became a mini grenade. Shrapnel came this way and shrapnel came this way. A piece of shrapnel took out a chunk of the ball of my head and my femur. So if this is my femur, this is the head, which is inside my hip, it's missing a chunk. So if I were to run, it would just demolish my hip, the ball of my hip, and turn into chalk dust. So I can't ever run again, and eventually I will need a new hip. It's not a matter of if, but a matter of when. But I'm just happy to be alive. Like I said, I like to focus on the positive. It took a while for me to find the positive. Walter Reed was probably was the worst experience of my life. I mean, I'm so thankful for the doctors, the nurses, and what they did, but it was really hard, not just physically, but emotionally. I mean, I wanted to make the infantry a career and take away my ability to run, took away my chances with doing that, making the infantry a career. But I'm happy to be alive, obviously, and coming so close to death just gave me such massive perspective. I mean, there's been days where I've been sad, and instantly I could just transport myself back to that exact location, Afghanistan, back to that place and time where I was lying there just waiting to die, and life isn't that bad. I mean, I really shouldn't be here. I shouldn't be here making this video. I shouldn't be doing the things that I do. I should be 6 feet under right now. I know that, and I'm just grateful to be alive. Eventually, I did make it to Peru, and I did get to volunteer with Global Tears. I got to travel the world some more, and I even did Ironman. Not running. I did the run with crutches. And I'm actually training for another Ironman, a double Ironman. But I guess that's another story.